Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Faraz and you must know who I am at this point. You must have seen the reel where I go. I don't know if you guys noticed. Yep, I'm sick and tired of it as well. So today we have a really special guest with us. He has done a lot of certifications and he's traveled all over from the US to come here to Pakistan and teach baristas and us and home brewers, all coffee people, like something that we really actually neglect, which is the core of coffee, which is coffee education. But yeah, I'm just gonna hand it over to Tim. Tim, how are you doing? How's Pakistan been for you as of yet?
Oh, I'm doing great. Love being here. My first time to Pakistan. And really enjoying it. Great people, delicious food, really has been a great time.
So we've had a lot of different foods. What would you say is your favorite?
Ooh, you know, the chicken biryani we had here in Karachi was really good. I'm a sucker for a good garlic naan. I mean, you know, which I know is quite simple, right? Like, but that's definitely been some of my highlights for sure.
All right, we all like garlic naans here as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Tim. How did you get into coffee, education in specific, and what has your journey been like from the beginning to date?
Yeah, so my journey in coffee, I tell people, really started at the farm. So I'm from the U.S., born and raised in the U.S., in the southern part of the U.S. in Texas. So I grew up in Houston, Texas, and went to school in a small university in Central Texas, and met my wife when I was at university. We married quite young, and we moved over to southern China, kind of doing some development work, English education. We were a part of a team that was working on different projects, water, education, and health projects were kind of the main things that we were doing. And so my wife and I, we originally went over there, we were English teachers, and the team that we were with, one of the first projects the water projects that we were a part of was this farming community that was on the border between Myanmar and China that was starting to introduce coffee in addition to tea that they were growing. So they had like these little baby, like 2-year-old coffee plants in the ground. And we worked with the villagers there to help install, there's about a 5-kilometer water line from the mountain spring to their village to bring water not only for coffee processing, but also for their own use. And so we kind of began this. I didn't have an agriculture background. The extent of my agriculture experience up to that point was my grandpa had like raised a few cows. Like that was kind of it. So very, very new. And we began asking questions about what coffee is, how do we grow it, how do we process it, how do we sell it, who buys it? And all of those kind of questions began this kind of what I tell people is this kind of rabbit hole journey down into coffee. And so a lot of those initial questions began this pursuit of, I want to learn about what coffee is. And during that time I was living in southern China, they're very accustomed to tea and the different qualities of tea. And then it was, okay, well, are there different qualities and what does that look like? And different brewing methods and all of that kind of, further down the rabbit hole. And so I began trying to learn as much as I could and asking lots of questions. And I took some courses and tried to gain as much experience and knowledge as I could. And I remember, there were late nights sitting around tea tables, drinking tea with farmers and villagers and just learning about growing coffee and what that experience was like, and that led me eventually to teaching and instructing. And I began taking courses through what's called the Coffee Quality Institute. This is an organization that does different coffee programs, and really found a connection with some of the programs that they were doing back then and kind of how they were supporting coffee producers. And so really a lot of my early time in coffee was focused on supporting and working with coffee producers on how to improve their livelihood, on how to, I got into coffee kind of through the avenue of development. So I've always kind of had that bent and that desire of how do we, through the vehicle of coffee, help to improve and change people's lives. And so that's always been a big pursuit of mine. So I continued on learning more about coffee, became an instructor, and my family and I, we actually lived in China up until 2019. So for 10 years we spent there. And I got to be a part of some really fun projects throughout Southeast Asia and East Africa, teaching and supporting coffee development in many of those countries.
All right, interesting.
Yeah.
So you know Chinese as well?
I do. I speak Mandarin.
Oh, how good are you at it? Like if you want to.
Like, I mean, I've taught courses in Chinese in Mandarin.
Okay, so you do know it. All right.
I have a hard time being overly confident because I know what I don't know. But I think to like the average person, I mean, I still dialogue a lot and catch up with friends back in China, and so so my Mandarin's pretty good.
Pretty decent. All right, that's good. So you talked about your journey from quite literally the farm, and then you went all the way to teaching. And so what I want to know is, what was your basically like your greatest influence on like teaching, like the people, like the teaching philosophy, in other words, and like what made you wanna go to other countries and also give that teaching regarding coffee or the production or anything along those lines? What was your greatest influence? Who or what? It could be either or.
I mean, my personality is I'm very inquisitive. My mom always told me that growing up, like I was the kid that always asked why, and if she could give me a good reason, I was cool with doing whatever she said. And I even had a fifth grade teacher one time who sent a complaint home to my parents saying that I asked too many questions during class. So I've always been very inquisitive, and part of that is a desire to learn, a desire to understand and the pursuit of the why. And I get that there's not always an answer, right? Sometimes there's not. It's just, it is because it is. But that pursuit has always created in me a very inquisitive type of desire of understanding, okay, if this is how things are done, well, why do we do it like that? Or what if we tried to do it different? And that mindset has really kind of continued on into how I teach. Because I think it's important that there's lots of facts, there's lots of information, there's lots of data, there's lots of that, but it's really understanding why and where that comes from. And there's a line to that, right? Like eventually we have to kind of accept things and kind of move on. But that desire of understanding and knowing the why is always something that I bring into teaching. If we're going to talk about the best practices that we might use, I think it's always important to know the why. I had an early kind of mentor in coffee, and he would always say that coffee will always surprise you. And when we say, you should never ferment coffee cherries past 8 to 12 hours, but then now we're doing it for 100 hours or 200 hours, so there's always things that will surprise you. But if you don't understand the why around those things or what we're hoping to achieve, it becomes very difficult to approach or to innovate or to think about new directions. And so that's always been a key part of who I am, is the why. I think the other part of what I try to really pursue is really empowering people with the tools to make their own decisions. I think that there's a very strong empowering aspect that education brings, where when you understand and you can make those decisions and think through those processes on your own, there's a real empowerment that comes from that, and a joy and a pride and and not pride in a bad way, but a good type of pride that comes in pursuing that and learning those things on your own. And so I try, even in teaching, to equip and provide tools so that as people face new challenges or different opportunities, that they're able to navigate those and use the principles that they've learned to then engage with that and to use those tools to then make a difference and to improve. So that's the other thing I would say that's been a really important philosophy for me is it's one of the challenges that I have being an outsider coming into different communities is that I work really hard to approach that with humility, and it's always a challenge because I understand the dynamic of the role between somebody who's had other experiences and people who have maybe seen places or done things, but the reality is we all have our own lived experiences that are so valuable. And something that I've just a personal philosophy I've always had is, for me, every interaction with somebody is an opportunity to learn something. It doesn't matter if you've had 1 month of education or 10 years of education or 30 years of education. There's an opportunity for all of us to learn something from each other. And when you're an elementary student and you're trying to learn math, right? Obviously you need somebody who's a teacher. Child education is very different than adult education. And one of the keys of adult education is that we all have our own experiences that are so important. The kind of tiered system of, I've got a college degree, and so I have this, knowledge that, come close to me, I will impart my knowledge onto you. I just don't, that dynamic is always really, I've always struggled with that. Because for me, educational courses and when I teach, it really is an opportunity for us to learn together. And honestly, I often find times that I learn hopefully just as much as other people are learning during courses that I do, because I love having those conversations and sharing together and learning from other people's experiences as well.
No, that's very true. I feel like the experiences are more important than in terms of coffee at least, or like you mentioned, adult education is more about experiences than what the book tells you or what a person who has done a certain degree tells you. It's once you do it yourself, and that when you experience that cup of coffee, you know exactly or somewhat what you actually need to tweak or do. So you also mentioned that you've been to different countries altogether for trainings. What were some of them?
Oh wow, I spent time in kind of early when I first started in coffee, kind of had opportunities to do things throughout Southeast Asia, so Thailand and Myanmar, did some projects in the Philippines, and then was a part of some projects throughout East Africa, in the Congo, Rwanda, Ethiopia, and so really kind of all over. And then I've done some other kind of teaching and training courses in Europe, in the US. What I'm kind of embarrassed to say, probably the one region that I've had very little experience to is Central and South America, which, in Brazil and Colombia, in terms of really important countries to global coffee, I really feel like sometimes I'm like, I'm like a fraud, like I haven't been to Brazil or Colombia yet, but it's I'm hoping to have some opportunities to do that. But I've worked on some projects, currently working on some projects with some producers from Yemen, and just kind of all over the place. And it's such I truly do consider it such an honor to be able to interact with so many different cultures and communities and people, and again, learning from them. And then in those educational programs and teachings that I do, I really try to honor that opportunity by sharing those with other people. It's not like I have those experiences to kind of hoard it to myself and keep it for myself to make myself, but really just to share that and to share those experiences with others. And so I really do. And people ask me all the time, like, what's your favorite place to go? And it's so hard to like pick one place because I think about time I've spent in Cairo in Egypt with some wonderful friends I have there, and times that I've spent in rural parts of Myanmar or of Thailand. And I just, for me, one of the beautiful things about coffee in my experience is the interaction that it has with people. And really, honestly, for me, people make it worth it.
Yeah.
And when I think about all of those different places I've gone to, for me, like, people pop into my mind, their faces pop into my mind, and I'm like, how can I just pick one place? Like, there's so many wonderful people with beautiful stories and beautiful lives that are just really exciting to learn together with and to learn from.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like coming back to what you said, like it's hard to pick a favorite when each of those experiences probably taught you something very valuable, and you can't, because they're all like a building block, and they're not like, oh, this block is gold and that block is brown. You know, they're all blocks that are building it up to like your knowledge base.
And it's so funny because I'll travel to different countries and I'll come back and somebody will ask me like, oh, did you visit this or visit that? And my experiences traveling places, like I don't go there for tourism. It's not like, I'm probably one of the few people that, go to like a place like Costa Rica or Hawaii and don't go to the beach, because I'm at the coffee farms.
Interesting.
And so people are like, oh, how was the beach? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't go. What did you do there? I was at the coffee farms. Like that's where my heart is. And that was what was exciting. And, even I was in different, you go to different places, and I'm not found around the like touristy places, it's the all the other places that I find myself, and I love it. It's such a cool, again, a cool opportunity and experience to see such diverse places.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. That you would be like, I'm at the farms, I'm not all business, and it's. The great thing is that you love what you're doing, right? So it's the coffee. So for you, it's you're having fun, It's not even like, oh, I have to stay.
Right.
Like, I want to be here.
Right, exactly.
I don't care about the sea or anything. I'm here for the farm. That's really interesting. And just one more thing, like you mentioned a little bit back, that you don't want to hoard on to that information, right? You want to give it back. And that there's actually a saying in Urdu, which is ke ilm baantne se badhta hai, which basically translates to the education and all this intellectual knowledge that a person has, it spreads it basically increases once you spread it. So once you spread it to other people, more people experience it, they learn, and then they go on to their own journeys. And then if they follow the same mechanism and don't hoard on to that information, a person saying, I've done this degree, and then is not sharing it with his colleague, is kind of like, you don't want the world to be better. You're just like, it's all for me, and all that kind of thing. But that's interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.